Hi friends, happy Monday. Welcome to a new week. I love what we're talking about. I need what we're talking about. So I hope that it is beneficial to you as well. And that the Lord's been talking to you about things that we're talking about. I know that when I study whatever the Lord and I are talking about, that typically I hear it throughout the week. I hear it from different voices because I suppose that's what we're listening to, that's what we're learning, that's what we're putting in our eyes. So we hear it and we recognize it in other places, which is a great segue to what we're gonna dig into this week. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted looking out my window. There are icicles on my tree and my rose bush right here at the window. There's ice, so it's cold, wet, but that's okay. That is okay. I've already had my coffee, so we're good. So last week we ended with the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd, in that if I am not his sheep, he is not my shepherd. Something that sounds so simple, and yet it is the biggest detail, right? I can't expect to read the promises, the strength, the encouragement, the beauty, all of the goodness in Psalm 23, that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There's some really good, just good in those verses. But if I'm not his, then none of it is for me. We talked about last week, it's super easy to become one of his. It's super easy to become a sheep. He didn't make it hard. I've heard preachers preach for years, that sheep are dumb animals. I really don't want to. We're not going to talk about that today, and that's probably not how I would phrase it anyway. But he made it real simple for us to become his. And so I'm grateful for that. But none of that is for me if I'm not his sheep. And as we read from John 10, Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. The shepherd is, in the parable, he to whose care and control others have committed themselves, and who follow his precepts. So I've committed myself to Jesus. I have committed myself to his care and to his control and to following his precepts. That's what it means to be the sheep, all right? So that means that I follow him and I do what he says do. He leads. Where he leads me, I will follow. Somewhere in the grand scheme of time, we seem to have forgotten that we are supposed to follow. That it's okay that we just do what we want to do, that we just be who we want to be. Jesus is there, God's over there, they'll be there when I need them. And we have this ridiculous idea of freedom that it means doing whatever we want to do. And that could not be farther from the truth. The freedom that Jesus purchased was our freedom to be able to choose Him. To be able to choose Him. That we were no longer bound in this cycle of sin and death, but we could choose to be followers, to be children of God. That's what John 1 tells us. And we read this, some of this in December. And this is just the first one that popped into my head. But Jesus came. I promise John 1's in my Bible. But to as many as did receive and welcome Him, He gave the authority, the power, privilege, and right to become the children of God. That is, to those who believe in, adhere to, trust in, and rely on His name. He gave the right to become children, followers, His people. That was new, especially for those who were not of Jewish birth, right? Because the Hebrew children, the Israelites, were God's people. And yet they still were stuck in cycles of sin. But when Jesus came, He completely fulfilled the law and then opened the door where whosoever could follow Him. We're going to stop here because we're at 7 minutes, but I have a feeling this is where we're going to pick up and dig in a little bit more tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.